How useful is having this third entry for an individual or for a business? What is exactly the operational benefit of it?
They change every business that exists on the planet, because most of the people that are in compliance or audit are tracking and checking every one of those records all day long. They're reconciling. There's a whole every business has a reconciliation department. All they do is make sure that what the transactions say they were, they are. Then it goes to audit. And the audit people track the reconciliation people and the people at the restaurant. Well, the Bitcoin network does this internally every 10 minutes. It self-audits every transaction. So guess who's not needed to verify a transaction on the Bitcoin network? Humans that conduct reconciliation of transactions, or humans that conduct audits. They're unnecessary. And so if your business model depends on the fact that there are humans conducting transactions that they can commit fraud on, which are lots and lots of people, you're not needed anymore to audit this network if this network takes off the way that it has. And so there's a lot of people that are been in various industries, including audit, accounting, taxation, reconciliation, that they see that they're not needed to do the same work to track these transactions. But more importantly, besides the fact that, I think they're all important. So also important. So you have this unalterable record forever on this chain. Now, what other problems does that solve? Well, one of the longest standing problems, Saif, in terms of transactions between two parties, and you know this part, that there's never been an ability of humans to conduct a peer-to-peer transaction over geographic space without a third-party verification system. And what that means is, and this is the Byzantine general problem. I've altered it. I think this is simpler to explain the Byzantine general problem this way. If you care to, there's books that are thousands of pages long that go into the Byzantine general problem. Let's go back in time, 1,000 years ago. Saif and I don't know each other. We're not friends 1,000 years ago. We don't know anything about each other except that we both have something of value that the other wants. I'm in Asia and Saif is in Europe. If we make a deal and Saif has to send me something of value and I don't get it, he says he sent it and I don't get it. I don't believe that he sent it. And so that what that means is I believe that Saif is a bad actor. He did not send me the value because I didn't get it. Now, Saif sent it. Saif was an honorable person. He sent me the value. And now I'm saying I didn't get it. Well, now Saif thinks I'm a bad actor, that I got it. And I'm saying I didn't get it, so I don't have to send him the value that I was going to send him. And so what that means is over time and space, geographic space, there's no way for two humans to conduct a transaction with each other. And so how did humans conduct transactions over thousands of years? The way they did it was a third party popped up. The third party called themselves the transaction verification party. And so Saif would send his value to the third party. I would send my value to the third party. And the third party would say, Saif sent value, check. Darin sent value, check. Transaction culminated. And so that third-party transaction facility or verification system, that was necessary to conduct transactions since the beginning of human history up until 2008. You could never trust another person to accurately tell you if they received the value or not. So you needed a third-party verification system. Well, what did those third-party verification systems turn into? The systems that approve the transactions between two parties. They turned into banks. So the banks very first product offering line was a verification system between two parties on a confirmation of a transaction, and they would charge a fee. And so banks popped up all over. People would send them value. They would record the transactions and charge a fee. The next line of banks was this. Saif sent $1 million to the bank. They confirmed that he sent it. They confirmed my value was there. And now that transaction just culminated, and the bank says to me, we're going to send you $1 million, to your hut. And I said, no, why don't you guys just custodian it? And so the custodianship of money became the bank's second product line, all predicated on its first product line, right? There is no custodianship of money necessary unless they're also confirming the transactions, and then that money's at the bank. So you have banks pop up, they're confirming transactions between two parties, and then they're custodying the money. That's what a bank does. That's what banks are globally. Everything else that a bank does has been legislatively prescriptive. It's fabricated. They've just come up with new product lines to utilize the custodianship of money that they have. And so in America, the banks get to say, okay, we have $1 billion in deposits in our bank, and the Federal Reserve allows them, and the banking regulatory agencies allow them to borrow 9 times the amount of money they have on their books and lend it out. And so now the bank that has $1 billion is lending out $9 billion, and they're making interest on that, right? And they're borrowing the additional money from the Fed, and they're paying really low interest rate, and they're lending it out for a much higher interest rate, and they're making the spread minus what they lose. And so now that third product line, lending money out, becomes the bank's largest revenue producer, right? They're just lending massive amounts of money, and they're trying to get all the deposits so they can lend out more money. Now, all of this is predicated on one thing, that Saif and I can't do business with each other over geographic time and space because the transactions can't occur outside of their third-party verification system. Now what happens? Well, Bitcoin happens. And so now, two parties, me and Saif, we can see each other's wallets publicly. Saif can see that I have money in my wallet, the Bitcoin in my wallet. He can see, and I can see that I sent it to him. And it gets recorded immutably to a ledger. Well, guess what? Transaction culminated without a third party. Well, what does that disrupt? Everything that's been built in the world related to verifying transaction to a third party, because we just had our first peer-to-peer transaction ever. So now that there's the ability to have a peer-to-peer transaction without a third-party verification system, the bank's first product line has a potential to get much smaller, which means the custodianship of money, which is their second product line, that gets smaller too. And then the amount of money they get to borrow and from the Fed and then lend out, that gets smaller also. And so this new network disrupts everything. It disrupts every single business, every single, everything that was created allow humans to conduct business will change, because we just changed not just the transaction ability between two parties. The first time you're allowed to have a peer-to-peer transaction without a third-party verification system, it's also written to an immutable ledger, which has no on-chain fraud and has no ability to be hacked, so that they can't rescind the transaction. They can't seize the transaction. And you have private property, and you have the ability to bank yourself. And so this is revolutionary technology. It changes everything. And when you realize that, it's kind of a eye-opening moment where you say, wow, we're very fortunate to be here during this amazing new network and this new innovation. It's equivalent to how they democratized information with the internet. When the internet democratized information to everybody, this is going to democratize accounting, which is a very complicated subject, to everybody. Accounting becomes much simpler because audits on chain happen digitally. The records are kept immutably, and transactions between two parties can occur without third-party verification systems. And so it's a disruptive technology. It disrupts everything. And the amazing part about it is it's distributed globally. The consensus mechanisms, the nodes and servers are distributed globally, so they live all over the earth. And if the countries could shut it down, China would have shut it down. They don't like networks to live outside their central authority, right? They're an authoritarian regime. They don't like individuals within their borders to have freedom. They don't like them to have private property. And they banned it. They banned the technology multiple times. And if banning Bitcoin worked, you'd only have to ban it one time, right? You ban it once and then it would be gone within your borders. But people realize and governments realize you can't shut the network down because it's distributed globally. It lives all over these hundreds of thousands of nodes, and you have to hack the entire network simultaneously, which is impossible. So you have the first unhackable network, you have the first immutable chain, you have the first transaction, peer-to-peer transaction without a third-party verification system. You have the first innovation to accounting in 700 years. And anything that lives on these rails is going to be better technology than what's existed before. And so we're in the very beginning of this. And I think we're all in the same fight. We're just, the legacy people don't want to change. And that's not new to Bitcoin. Legacy people never want to change. Well, I think I